people. Welcome to another story segment. Are we excited to hear another interesting story today?
Yay!
Once upon a time, in the faraway land of our kingdom, there lived a king and his beautiful wife who were longing for children. They had been married for 10 years with no evidence of a child. This continued into the 11th year until the elders of the kingdom couldn't take it anymore. They mounted pressure on the king to give them an heir to the throne. The queen kept on pleading and pleading, asking for more time to be able to conceive. After her long nights of crying, the king summoned the elders and begged them for an additional 2 years. He promised them that if the queen didn't conceive within that time, he would remarry. Those 2 years were the longest and most stressful years for the queen as she embarked on different journeys to different kingdoms looking for a solution. After a year had passed, the queen finally conceived. The news of her conception became the talk of town, and the king was so overjoyed and couldn't wait for the child to be born. Night and day, the queen would pray to the gods, asking that the child in her womb be a boy. 9 months quickly passed, and the queen went into labor, giving birth to a bouncing baby girl. The moment the king set his eyes on the child, he loved her instantly and named her Adobe, meaning daughter of a king. The queen, on the other hand, hated Adobe from the moment she was born and her gender revealed. She hated her to the point that she refused to feed her. The king didn't care so much about the gender of the child. Instead, he was overjoyed and kept praising the gods for making him a father and giving him a child through the love of his life, the queen. The queen's attitude didn't change much, even though she pretended to change in front of the king. She wished in her heart she could exchange Adobe for a male child, but there was no way for her to do that. Day after day, she would curse on the gods for not granting her request for a male child. It has been the long-life dream of the queen to give the king a heir apparent to the throne, because she knew that a girl child can never be a heir in our kingdom. She knew that the village elders will come again to persuade the king to remarry if she doesn't act fast. Few years had passed, and all attempts to conceive again for the king proved abortive. As predicted, the elders struck again, and this time they weren't taking no for an answer. The king finally succumbed to their demands and remarried a young maiden girl selected by the elders, who they said came from a fertile descent. In no time, Nkechi, the new wife of the king, conceived and gave birth to a baby boy. Nnenna, the king's first wife, harbored intensified hatred towards Adaobi. She cursed her with the help of the charm she obtained from a strong herbalist in one of the neighboring villages. She transformed her daughter into a tortoise and sent her out of the palace. The day the king discovered Adaobi was missing in the palace, he sent out people to look for her. Year after year, there was no sign of Adaobi. This made the king and queen, who were once inseparable lovebirds, drift apart. Nkechi, the new wife, tried her best to reconcile both of them, but her several pleas fell on deaf ears. Obike, the son of Nkechi, grew into a handsome young man, loved by many and admired by the maidens of our kingdom. Adaobi, who was now a tortoise, wandered away deeper and deeper into the forest, fending for herself. 20 years had passed, with her living with this curse her mother placed on her. On some days, she would cry bitterly and wish she was never born. She lived in the forest as the only animal who could talk and hear the voices of humans. One day, in the course of her wandering, she overheard a conversation between two women about an ancient herbalist who lived in a cave in the deepest part of the forest in another village called Nkwo. Because of how he was described, she believed that he could break the curse. But her problem was how to locate Nkwo village. Determined in her heart to find this herbalist, she set out on a journey. She arrived at the outskirts of Nkwo village and was trying to locate her way to the forest when she found herself in the market square in front of praying eyes staring at her. Although Adaobi was a tortoise, she was a beautiful sight to behold. A rare species of tortoise, looking radiant in her colorful shell. In the land of Nkwo, tortoises were sacred animals, and so they lived among humans. She slowly made her way as fast as she could back to the direction she came from and hid in between a shallow bush, panting like she was being chased by some hungry humans. After what seemed like a while, she tried to move out from her hiding place and discovered she was tangled in between some wild plants. Ikenga, a well-built hunter, was coming back from hunting after a long day of setting traps that caught nothing. He was sluggishly making his way back home to his nagging mother when he sighted Adaobi the tortoise trying to untangle herself from the middle of a wild plant. he quickly helped her untangle herself and dropped her on the ground. As he was about to leave, Adobe muttered, "Thank you." Ikenga turned in shock and disbelief of what he heard. But then again, she repeated it the second time. That was when Ikenga realized that he was standing in the presence of a talking tortoise. In shock, he left her presence and ran as fast as possible back home. Adobe continued in her wandering around the bush while taking a clue from the direction Ikenga came from. On getting home, Ikenga's mother nagged him for being unproductive and useless, unlike his mates who go out to hunt and come back with big bushmeats. She rained abuses on him non-stop, but Ikenga paid no attention to her because his mind was occupied by the incidents that occurred in the bush. The next day, he set out early in the morning back to the spot he met Adobe, but she wasn't there. He looked for her for a bit before setting out to prepare his trap for the day. Meanwhile, Adobe was in the corner of the bush watching Ikenga as he searched for her without results. After sorting out what to eat, she went about her day searching for the right way into the forest. 1 week later, Ikenga came back to the forest with rope, looking for a suitable place to hang himself. He went farther into the forest because of the strong branches that were there. While he was trying to put the rope over his head, he heard a voice asking him, "Why are you trying to kill yourself?" He stopped in his track to look for the owner of the voice, but when he couldn't see anyone, he continued what he was doing. And the voice spoke to him the second time. This time around, the owner of the voice came out from the hiding place and touched his feet. It dawned on him that it was a talking tortoise all along. And then he broke down in tears and started narrating his life ordeal and frustration at home. He cried at length, pouring out his heart to the tortoise. When he got a grip of himself, he stopped crying and dried his tears. Adobe encouraged him and made him see that suicide wasn't an option to end his misery. Instead, he should consider other solutions like changing his hunting techniques and trying something new. He nodded in agreement and resolved to explore the new suggestions Adobe gave him. Then he asked Adobe, "How is it that you are a tortoise and can talk like a human?" Adobe started narrating her story of how her mother cast a spell on her out of hate for her because she wasn't the male child her mother wanted. According to the conditions of the curse, only the herbalist who conjured the charm can undo it. Ikenga then asked her if she knew the herbalist, and she replied no, but then she remembered the conversation that led to her journey, and so she told Ikenga about the strong herbalist who lived in the cave of Nkwo's forest. There and then, Ikenga promised her that he was going to help her look for the herbalist and find a way to break the curse. Adobe thanked him countless times and promised him in return that she would show him a few tricks about hunting, as she has lived most of her life in the forest. It didn't take long. Ikenga caught his first prey. That was the happiest day of his life. When he got home, his mom was singing his praises and invited all her neighbors to come and see what her Odogu son caught. Ikenga left them and retired to bed. The day Ikenga and Adobe planned to begin their search approached quickly, and they embarked on their journey with high hopes of finding a solution. 3 days had passed, and there was no sign of the cave, and their supplies were running out. Suddenly, Ikenga sighted a rabbit while they were sitting down under a huge tree resting. He quickly swung into action and chased the rabbit until it ran into a rabbit hole before Ikenga could grab it. Getting up from the floor, just beside the hole was a huge rock with a big crack. Moving over gently to examine the rock he saw, he discovered that the rock had a huge opening. It was at that minute it clicked in his head that it could be the cave they were looking for. He quickly ran back and screamed Adobe's name on the top of his voice. His excitement got the best of him, and so he ran towards Adobe and grabbed her. Hello, people. I feel so tired at the moment. I think we should continue our story tomorrow. What do you guys think?
Auntie, no,
Please calm down,
no,
okay? I'm so tired, but I promise you that by tomorrow I will tell you everything that happened in the story. Alright? See you same time, same venue tomorrow. Thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and turn on your notification button to stay updated on the juiciest African tales. From me, see you in the next one. Bye.